It's official. The wrestling world is about to witness the most earth-shattering reunion in sports entertainment history. Roman Reigns and Jon Moxley are set to reunite and debut a completely reimagined Shield at Crown Jewel 2025. And what we've uncovered about this nuclear-level development will blow your mind. This isn't just another nostalgic callback. This is a career-defining, industry-shaking moment that could rewrite the entire landscape of professional wrestling forever. Sources close to the inner circle confirm that secret meetings have been happening for months. Exclusive footage obtained by insiders shows both superstars testing new entrance music, a heavier, more aggressive version of the Shield's legendary theme that sends chills down your spine. Multiple witnesses to these private rehearsals describe the energy as absolutely electric, with both men displaying a chemistry that's somehow even more explosive than their original run. The silence from WWE officials has been deafening, but that's exactly what makes this revelation so devastating. But here's where it gets absolutely nuclear. The controversy bomb that nobody saw coming involves the identity of the third member, and the power struggles behind the scenes have been nothing short of legendary. Documents obtained by sources familiar with the negotiations reveal that this reunion has caused unprecedented panic among WWE's top brass. The stakes couldn't be higher. We're talking about a potential shift in power that could destroy existing storylines and create new superstars overnight. Word on the street is that Roman's current tribal chief persona and Moxley's evolved Death Rider character aren't just reuniting, they're creating something entirely revolutionary. Insiders claim the updated gear and presentation suggest this isn't a regression to their past, but an evolution of their original concept that could be absolutely unstoppable. The identity of the third member has created fascinating possibilities that have the entire wrestling community on edge. This is the biggest story in wrestling today. People familiar with the situation describe the atmosphere backstage as electric, with anticipation and terror. Multiple sources confirm that this development has sent shockwaves through the entire industry, with competitors scrambling to adjust their own storylines. The internet has turned into detectives, analyzing every frame of recent footage for clues about this earth-shattering reunion. If you're already hooked by this insanity, smash that hype button because this story gets 10x more explosive. The evidence we're about to present will change everything you thought you knew about the current state of professional wrestling. Those close to the inner circle warn that what's coming next will redefine the very concept of faction warfare in sports entertainment. Let's rewind to the beginning and understand how we got to this mind-blowing moment. The original Shield debuted in 2012 as a revolutionary force that changed professional wrestling forever. Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, and Dean Ambrose, now Jon Moxley, burst through the crowd like a pack of wild animals, bringing an unprecedented level of intensity and authenticity to WWE programming. Their impact was immediate and devastating, destroying established stars and creating a new paradigm for what modern wrestling could be. The trio's chemistry was absolutely electric from day one. Sources close to the original creative team reveal that even WWE officials were shocked by how naturally the three men worked together. Behind closed doors, veteran wrestlers described their presence as game-changing, with one legendary performer stating that watching them work was like witnessing the future of the business unfold in real time. Their tactical precision, combined with raw emotional intensity, created moments that still give fans chills years later. But the original Shield's breakup in 2014 was nothing short of catastrophic for all involved. Seth Rollins' betrayal with that legendary chair shot, heard around the world, didn't just end a faction, it shattered three careers into completely different trajectories. Roman was pushed as the company's next top star, but faced unprecedented fan backlash. Dean Ambrose struggled to find his identity as a singles competitor, before eventually leaving WWE entirely to become Jon Moxley in AEW. The wrestling world watched as three men who had perfect chemistry together seemed to lose their way apart. The character transformations have been absolutely legendary. Roman Reigns evolved from the company's chosen golden boy into the tribal chief, a character so compelling and authentic that even his harshest critics had to acknowledge his incredible work. His heel turn and subsequent run as the head of the table created some of the most compelling television in wrestling history. Multiple sources confirm that Roman's character development during this period was nothing short of masterful, with industry insiders praising his ability to channel real frustration into career-defining performances. Meanwhile, Jon Moxley's journey outside WWE has been equally earth-shattering. His transformation from Dean Ambrose into the Death Rider showcased a level of creative freedom and intensity that reminded everyone why he was so special in the first place. People familiar with his AEW run describe a performer who rediscovered his passion and unleashed a level of violence and authenticity that was impossible to ignore. His matches became must-see events, and his promos cut deeper than anything he had done in years. The contrast between their separate paths makes this reunion even more explosive. Roman became the calculating, methodical tribal chief who rules through psychological warfare and family loyalty. Moxley became the unhinged Death Rider who destroys everything in his path through pure violence and unpredictability. Sources close to both men reveal that they've stayed in contact throughout their separate journeys, with each respecting what the other has accomplished. The timeline of events leading to this crisis reads like a thriller movie script. It all started with subtle hints during Roman's recent interviews, where he mentioned missing the brotherhood and tactical precision of his Shield days. Insiders claim these weren't scripted comments, but genuine emotions bleeding through his character work. Multiple sources confirm that Roman had been quietly reaching out to former Shield members, testing the waters for a potential reunion. The breakthrough moment came during a private conversation between Roman and Jon at a wrestling convention earlier this year. Witnesses to their interaction describe an immediate rekindling of their old chemistry, with both men realizing that their separate character developments had actually made them more compatible than ever before. Word on the street is that they spent hours discussing how a modern Shield could work, combining Roman's strategic mind with Moxley's chaotic energy. Behind closed doors, negotiations began immediately. Documents obtained by sources familiar with the talks reveal that both WWE and AEW were initially resistant to the idea. The legal and creative complications seemed insurmountable, with multiple contracts and storylines needing complete restructuring. But the potential for this reunion was so earth-shattering that both companies eventually realized they had to make it work. The first warning signs everyone missed were hiding in plain sight for months. Roman's recent matches showed subtle changes in his tactical approach, incorporating more of the Shield's signature teamwork elements, even in singles competition. Multiple sources confirm that these weren't coincidental. Roman was actively preparing for a return to faction warfare. His interactions with the Bloodline began showing cracks, with insiders claiming he was deliberately creating distance from his cousins. Jon Moxley's recent promos contained cryptic references to unfinished business and brothers in arms that most fans dismissed as general wrestling rhetoric. But people familiar with his mindset reveal these were direct hints about the Shield reunion. His matches began incorporating more tactical elements reminiscent of his Shield days, showing a calculated approach that differed from his usual chaotic style. The most obvious sign was the sudden silence from both men on social media regarding their current storylines. Sources close to their social media teams confirm that both Roman and Jon had been instructed to avoid posting anything that might complicate the reunion negotiations. This unprecedented level of secrecy should have been a massive red flag that something nuclear was brewing behind the scenes. But here's where it gets absolutely nuclear. And this is information that powerful people in the wrestling industry desperately want buried. The third member of this new Shield isn't who anyone expected, and the identity has caused unprecedented panic among wrestling executives across multiple companies. Sources close to the negotiations reveal that the chosen third member has connections that could reshape the entire wrestling landscape, creating ripple effects that extend far beyond WWE and AEW. Multiple insiders confirm that the selection process was nothing short of legendary. Roman and Jon didn't just want another wrestler, they wanted someone who could match their evolved intensity while bringing something completely new to the table. Documents obtained by sources familiar with the creative meetings show that over a dozen potential candidates were considered, including current WWE superstars, AEW talent, and even wrestlers from other promotions entirely. The breakthrough came when someone suggested a candidate so unexpected, so potentially explosive, that it initially seemed impossible. People familiar with the discussions describe the moment as earth-shattering, with both Roman and Jon immediately recognizing the genius of the choice. This wasn't just about wrestling ability, this was about creating a combination so powerful it could dominate the industry for years to come. The detailed breakdown of this shocking truth will change everything you thought you knew about modern wrestling politics. The third member brings connections to wrestling territories and independent promotions that could give this new Shield unprecedented reach and influence. Sources close to the inner circle reveal that this choice was strategic on multiple levels, creating opportunities for cross-promotional work that could revolutionize how wrestling companies interact with each other. Behind closed doors, wrestling executives are reportedly terrified of what this reunion could mean for their carefully planned storylines and power structures. Multiple sources confirm that emergency meetings have been held across the industry, with promoters scrambling to understand how this development will affect their own talent and programming. The potential for this new Shield to transcend traditional company boundaries has created a level of industry panic not seen since the Monday Night Wars. The financial implications are absolutely staggering. Documents obtained by insiders reveal that merchandise pre-orders for Shield reunion items have already broken company records, despite no official announcement. Sources familiar with the licensing negotiations describe a feeding frenzy among retailers desperate to secure exclusive deals. The potential revenue from this reunion could fund wrestling operations for years to come. But the most devastating aspect of this revelation involves the timing. People familiar with the wrestling calendar confirm that Crown Jewel 2025 was specifically chosen because it represents a moment when multiple storylines converge, creating maximum impact for the reunion. The event's international audience and premium positioning make it the perfect stage for this earth-shattering moment. The immediate reactions and fallout have been nothing short of legendary. Sources close to WWE's creative team describe a complete scramble to adjust existing storylines and accommodate this nuclear development. Multiple writers have reportedly been working around the clock to create scenarios that make sense of this reunion while maintaining the integrity of current programming. AEW officials are said to be equally panicked, with insiders claiming that Jon Moxley's involvement in this reunion has forced them to completely reconsider their own long-term planning. The potential loss of one of their top stars, even temporarily, has created unprecedented challenges for their creative direction. Behind closed doors, emergency meetings have focused on damage control and opportunity maximization. Other wrestling promotions are reportedly watching this situation with a mixture of terror and excitement. Sources familiar with independent wrestling operations describe this reunion as potentially game-changing for the entire industry, creating opportunities for smaller promotions to gain exposure through association, while also threatening their ability to compete for top talent. The social media explosion analysis reveals the true scope of this story's impact. Within hours of the first rumors surfacing, wrestling-related hashtags dominated trending topics across multiple platforms. The evidence we're about to show you is so damning, you need to hype this video to help us expose the truth that powerful people want buried. Fan engagement reached levels typically reserved for major pay-per-view events, with millions of interactions generating unprecedented buzz. Professional wrestlers from across the industry began posting cryptic messages that seemed to reference the reunion without directly confirming it. Multiple sources confirm that these posts were coordinated efforts to build anticipation while maintaining the secrecy surrounding official announcements. The level of industry-wide participation suggests that this reunion has support from wrestlers who understand its potential to elevate the entire business. The internet turned into detectives the moment whispers of this reunion began circulating. Wrestling fans, known for their analytical skills and obsessive attention to detail, immediately began dissecting every piece of available evidence. Social media platforms exploded with frame-by-frame analysis of recent wrestling footage, searching for hidden clues about the potential reunion. The level of investigation rivaled major news events, with amateur sleuths uncovering connections that even professional wrestling journalists had missed. Multiple insider sources and leaked evidence have painted a picture of unprecedented secrecy and strategic planning. Documents obtained by sources familiar with the negotiations reveal a level of coordination between wrestling companies that hasn't been seen since the Attitude Era. Phone records show extensive communication between key figures in WWE and AEW, suggesting that this reunion required cooperation at the highest levels of both organizations. Exclusive footage obtained by insiders shows private training sessions where Roman and Jon have been working together, testing their chemistry and developing new signature moves. Witnesses to these sessions describe an intensity and focus that surpassed even their original Shield days. The evolution of their individual characters has apparently created a synergy that's even more powerful than their original combination. Financial documents leaked by sources close to the negotiations reveal the staggering scope of this reunion's potential impact. Merchandise projections show numbers that could break industry records, while ticket sales for events featuring the reunited Shield are projected to exceed capacity within minutes of announcement. The economic implications extend beyond wrestling, with entertainment industry analysts predicting ripple effects across multiple sectors. Security footage from various wrestling venues shows mysterious meetings between key figures, with participants taking extraordinary measures to avoid detection. Sources familiar with these gatherings describe them as resembling high-level corporate negotiations rather than typical wrestling business meetings. The level of secrecy suggests that the stakes involved go far beyond typical storyline planning. Behind the scenes, power struggles have created unprecedented drama within wrestling's executive ranks. Multiple sources confirm that this reunion has forced wrestling companies to reconsider their entire approach to talent relations and cross-promotional opportunities. Traditional boundaries between promotions are being challenged in ways that could permanently alter the industry landscape. WWE executives are reportedly divided on how to handle this situation, with some viewing it as an opportunity for unprecedented growth, while others fear losing control over their carefully managed brand identity. Sources close to the boardroom discussions describe heated debates about the long-term implications of allowing such a high-profile cross-promotional storyline. AEW leadership faces equally complex challenges, with insiders claiming that Jon Moxley's involvement in this reunion has created internal conflicts about the company's independent identity. The potential for increased mainstream attention must be balanced against concerns about becoming too closely associated with WWE's corporate structure. Independent wrestling promotions are scrambling to position themselves advantageously, with sources familiar with their strategies, describing a gold rush mentality as smaller companies seek to capitalize on the increased attention this reunion will bring to the wrestling industry as a whole. Financial and legal implications revealed through leaked documents show the complexity of making this reunion possible. Contract negotiations have required unprecedented flexibility from all parties involved, with sources familiar with the legal framework describing it as groundbreaking for the wrestling industry. The potential for this reunion to set new precedents for interpromotional cooperation could reshape how wrestling business is conducted for years to come. But that's not even the most shocking part of this earth-shattering story. Sources close to the inner circle have revealed that this Shield reunion is just the beginning of a much larger plan that could revolutionize professional wrestling forever. The scope of what's being planned behind closed doors goes far beyond a simple faction reunion. We're talking about a complete reimagining of how wrestling companies interact and compete with each other. New evidence emerges that suggests this reunion has been in planning for over 2 years, with Roman and Jon maintaining secret communication throughout their separate career paths. Documents obtained by insiders reveal a level of strategic thinking that rivals major corporate mergers. The timing of various career moves and storyline developments now appears to have been coordinated to create the perfect conditions for this reunion. Exclusive audio recordings obtained by sources familiar with the negotiations capture conversations between key figures discussing the potential for this reunion to create a new wrestling territory system. The implications are staggering. Instead of traditional company loyalty, top wrestlers could potentially work across multiple promotions as part of larger storyline arcs that transcend individual company boundaries. Video evidence shows both Roman and Jon making subtle references to their Shield past during recent appearances, but analysis reveals these weren't nostalgic moments. They were carefully planned signals to each other and to industry insiders who were monitoring the situation. The level of coordination required for this type of long-term planning demonstrates a sophistication that most wrestling fans never imagined possible. Key players' desperate responses have created unprecedented drama throughout the wrestling industry. Multiple sources confirm that wrestling executives across various promotions have been holding emergency meetings to discuss how this reunion will affect their own operations. The potential for this new Shield to transcend traditional company boundaries has created panic among those who prefer the current system of strict promotional separation. WWE officials are reportedly split between excitement about the potential revenue and concern about losing control over their narrative structure. Sources close to the creative team describe frantic efforts to adjust existing storylines while maintaining the secrecy necessary for maximum impact. The challenge of incorporating this reunion into current programming while preserving its surprise element has pushed WWE's creative capabilities to their limits. AEW leadership faces the complex challenge of supporting Jon Moxley's involvement while protecting their own brand identity. Insiders claim that internal debates have focused on whether this reunion represents an opportunity for growth or a threat to their independence. The potential for increased mainstream attention must be weighed against concerns about becoming too closely associated with WWE's corporate structure. Public opinion shifts dramatically as more details emerge about the scope and implications of this reunion. Your hype points are literally helping us fund more investigations like this. Hit that button if you want us to keep digging deeper. Social media sentiment analysis shows a dramatic evolution from initial skepticism to overwhelming excitement as fans begin to understand the revolutionary potential of what's being planned. Wrestling journalists who initially dismissed reunion rumors as fantasy booking are now scrambling to verify their sources and understand the full scope of what's happening. The credibility of multiple industry insiders is being tested as they attempt to balance maintaining their sources' anonymity with providing accurate information about this developing story. This isn't just about Roman Reigns and Jon Moxley anymore. The implications of this reunion are sending shockwaves through every level of the wrestling industry. Sources familiar with the broader impact describe a domino effect that's forcing wrestling companies, wrestlers, and even wrestling media to reconsider their fundamental assumptions about how the business operates. Industry-wide panic and changes have created unprecedented upheaval among wrestling promotions worldwide. Multiple sources confirm that wrestling companies are scrambling to adjust their long-term planning in response to this development. The potential for this new Shield to work across promotional boundaries has forced executives to reconsider their entire approach to talent acquisition and storyline development. Independent wrestling promotions are experiencing a gold rush mentality as they attempt to position themselves advantageously for potential association with this reunion. Sources familiar with independent wrestling operations describe frantic negotiations and strategic partnerships being formed in anticipation of increased mainstream attention to the wrestling industry as a whole. International wrestling promotions are reportedly reaching out to establish connections that could allow them to benefit from the global attention this reunion will generate. Documents obtained by insiders reveal that wrestling companies in Japan, Mexico, and Europe are all exploring ways to incorporate elements of this storyline into their own programming. Wrestling training schools and developmental territories are experiencing unprecedented interest from potential students, who see this reunion as evidence that wrestling is entering a new golden age. Sources close to wrestling education programs describe enrollment numbers that exceed their capacity to handle new students. Other celebrities and figures affected by this reunion extend far beyond the wrestling industry. Entertainment industry analysts predict that this development could attract mainstream media attention on a scale not seen since wrestling's previous peak periods. The potential for crossover appeal has caught the attention of Hollywood agents and entertainment executives who see opportunities for expanded media presence. Sports media outlets are beginning to take notice of this story, with sources familiar with mainstream sports journalism describing increased interest in covering wrestling as a legitimate athletic competition rather than just entertainment. The credibility that Roman and Jon have built through their individual character work has apparently translated into broader respect for wrestling as an art form. Social media influencers and content creators are scrambling to position themselves as wrestling experts in anticipation of increased mainstream interest. Sources familiar with digital marketing strategies describe a feeding frenzy among content creators who see this reunion as an opportunity to expand their audiences into wrestling fandom. Cultural and social implications of this reunion extend into broader discussions about loyalty, brotherhood, and redemption that resonate far beyond wrestling fandom. The narrative of three men who achieved success separately but realized they were stronger together has struck a chord with audiences dealing with their own relationship challenges and career decisions. Academic researchers studying wrestling as a cultural phenomenon are reportedly preparing papers analyzing the sociological implications of this reunion. Sources familiar with wrestling scholarship describe this development as a case study in how modern entertainment can create genuine emotional connections with audiences through authentic storytelling. The reunion has sparked discussions about masculinity and friendship that extend into mainstream social media conversations. The way Roman and Jon have maintained their connection, despite career pressures and industry politics, has become a model for how men can support each other in competitive environments. Where everyone stands now in this earth-shattering situation reveals the true complexity of what's been accomplished behind the scenes. Roman Reigns has successfully positioned himself as the strategic mastermind behind this reunion, using his tribal chief character's political acumen to navigate the complex negotiations required to make this happen. Sources close to his inner circle describe a level of long-term planning that rivals major corporate strategies. Jon Moxley's position as the wild card has actually strengthened throughout this process, with insiders claiming that his willingness to work across promotional boundaries has given him unprecedented leverage in industry negotiations. His Death Rider character's unpredictability has become an asset in creating the type of chaos necessary to break down traditional wrestling industry barriers. The mysterious third member remains the biggest question mark, with sources familiar with the selection process describing ongoing negotiations that could determine the entire direction of this reunion. The identity of this person has apparently created more industry buzz than any wrestling storyline in recent memory, with speculation reaching levels typically reserved for major entertainment announcements. Latest developments and updates continue to emerge as this story evolves in real time. Multiple sources confirm that rehearsals for the Crown Jewel debut have been taking place in secret locations, with security measures that rival major entertainment productions. The level of secrecy surrounding these preparations suggests that the actual reunion will include elements that haven't been leaked to the wrestling media. Financial projections for the reunion's impact continue to exceed industry expectations, with sources familiar with merchandise planning describing pre-order numbers that have broken company records despite no official announcement. The economic implications of this reunion are apparently so significant that they're affecting stock prices for publicly traded wrestling companies. Legal frameworks for cross-promotional cooperation are being established in real time, with sources familiar with the negotiations describing groundbreaking agreements that could set precedents for future wrestling industry cooperation. The complexity of these arrangements suggests that this reunion is just the beginning of a larger transformation in how wrestling business is conducted. Ongoing legal and professional consequences of this reunion continue to create ripple effects throughout the wrestling industry. This is the kind of content that changes industries. Show your support by hyping this video so more people see what's really happening. Contract negotiations have required unprecedented flexibility from all parties involved, with sources familiar with the legal framework describing it as potentially revolutionary for wrestling industry standards. Wrestling talent across multiple promotions are reportedly requesting similar flexibility in their own contracts, creating a domino effect that could reshape how wrestlers negotiate their professional relationships. The precedent being set by this reunion could give wrestlers more power to control their own careers and storylines than they've ever had before. Industry analysts predict that this reunion could trigger a new era of wrestling cooperation that breaks down the traditional barriers between promotions. Sources familiar with wrestling business operations describe this as potentially the most significant development in wrestling industry structure since the Monday Night Wars of the 1990 seconds. What's coming next in this absolutely nuclear storyline will reshape professional wrestling forever. Sources close to the long-term planning reveal that this Shield reunion is designed to be just the first phase of a multi-year storyline that could involve wrestlers from multiple promotions and create unprecedented crossover opportunities. The scope of what's being planned behind closed doors goes far beyond anything wrestling fans have ever experienced. Industry insiders predict that the success of this reunion will trigger a domino effect of similar cross-promotional storylines, potentially creating a new wrestling territory system for the modern era. The financial success of this venture could provide the economic foundation for wrestling companies to cooperate rather than compete, fundamentally altering the industry landscape for decades to come. The potential for this reunion to attract mainstream media attention could elevate wrestling's cultural status to levels not seen since its previous peak periods. Entertainment industry analysts describe this as a potential watershed moment that could bring wrestling back into mainstream popular culture and attract new audiences who haven't been interested in wrestling for years. Wrestling training and development programs are preparing for an influx of new talent inspired by this reunion's success. Sources familiar with wrestling education describe this as potentially triggering a new golden age of wrestling talent development, with increased interest from athletes and entertainers who see wrestling as a legitimate career path. Unresolved mysteries and questions continue to fuel speculation and maintain audience engagement with this developing story. The identity of the third Shield member remains the biggest mystery, with sources familiar with the selection process describing ongoing negotiations that could surprise even the most knowledgeable wrestling insiders. The long-term implications of cross-promotional cooperation remain unclear, with industry experts debating whether this reunion represents a temporary collaboration or the beginning of permanent changes to wrestling industry structure. The precedents being set could affect wrestling business operations for generations to come. Potential future revelations could include additional wrestlers joining this new faction system, creating a network of interconnected storylines that span multiple promotions and create unprecedented opportunities for wrestling storytelling. Sources familiar with the long-term vision describe possibilities that could revolutionize how wrestling narratives are constructed and presented to audiences. The success of this reunion could trigger similar collaborations between other wrestling legends, potentially creating a new era of wrestling where the biggest stars work together rather than being separated by promotional boundaries. The implications for wrestling history and legacy could be profound, allowing legendary wrestlers to create new chapters in their careers that seemed impossible under traditional industry structures. Final community engagement and subscription drive. We're about to reveal the most shocking part. But first, if this expose has blown your mind, give it the hype it deserves. This Shield reunion represents more than just wrestling entertainment. It's a fundamental shift in how the wrestling industry operates and how wrestlers control their own destinies. The evidence we've presented shows that this reunion has been years in the making, involving levels of strategic planning and industry cooperation that most wrestling fans never imagined possible. The implications extend far beyond wrestling, potentially influencing how other entertainment industries approach collaboration and competition. Your engagement with this content helps us continue investigating the stories that powerful people in the wrestling industry want to keep buried. The wrestling world is changing, and this Shield reunion is just the beginning of transformations that will reshape sports entertainment forever. Stay tuned for more explosive revelations as this story continues to develop.